Good evening. Hello and welcome to the Startup Central, the brand new Startup Central. I'm Nayantara Rai. In the new avatar, we of course focus on startups, but anything that has to do with the new economy, entrepreneurship, technology, disruption, you name it, it's right here. A quick alert before we go any further. Write into us on our email, which is on the top of your screens, startupcentral@etnow.tv. Tell us what you want to see on the show. Tell us what you don't want to see on the show. Give us your feedback. Pitch to us. Who knows? Maybe you'll make it to Startup Central. My Twitter handle is @Nayantara Rai. You can write in directly to me as well. Today we're going to be discussing a topic which has gone viral if you go on social media. We're going to be talking about engineers. This is an entire debate that was actually started on Twitter by a partner at Axel, who raised this entire question of if you have a 10x engineer, make sure you never lose that 10x engineer. That basically it's a premium which the founders and on the startup universe is not respected. How the HR departments may try to waste time of the 10x engineer. They don't like to go for meetings. They don't want to go into processes. They rather focus on their work and find a solution. You know, I'm sure in most corporations, there are a lot of people who feel the same way, that are they being wasted simply because of many processes, too many meetings, business development, and that's not their forte. But in startups universe, how can you have anything or have a product which is not technology oriented? It's done by your engineers. Shouldn't they be the best paid when it also comes to the workforce? I'm going to be discussing that and a lot more. I'm going to now welcome Abhishek Gupta, the CEO of T Labs. Incidentally, Abhishek is also part of TI Delhi NCR, as is Abhishek Gupta, who is joining us. He's the charter member of TI Delhi NCR. And Atul Rai, the co-founder and CEO of StackQ. Atul is also part of TI Delhi NCR. Atul, in fact, tries and helps state police catch criminals using artificial intelligence. So, Atul, I'm going to come to you first. 10x engineer. At StackQ, do you have any 10x engineers? If you had 10x engineers, would you bother them with things like processes, business meetings, daily meetings, conference calls?
Of course, I think this 10x engineer concept bit strange for me, because of course getting someone 100% on a potential part is bit difficult, right? Because it's like you're talking about a nirvana, right? So nirvana in the engineering part, where you are having like, so it's a concept in Buddhism, right? So that is what you're talking about when talking about 10x engineers. Not, of course, engineering is something which is about a learning part. You learn and then of course you implement, and then you relearn it, right? It's not like that you are 100% perfect and then you are, of course, here you're talking about 1000% perfect, right? So I believe that engineering is all about learning and implementing and then relearning the thing. The rate of learning depends upon the different topics, different skill which you have. But in general, I feel that this 10x engine, of course, is now a viral topic on social media. But I believe this is something which is, of course, for me is a bit strange. You are having more than potential, like 10x potential to learn something. I mean, it's a bit like it happens in the movies, but not in the real scenario. Yeah.
Okay, so you think a 10x engineer is something in movies straight out of Hollywood? You don't see them in real life? Abhishek, let me come to you. Do you agree with that? That, actually 10x engineers is just made out to be? They don't actually exist? It's a Hollywood phenomenon?
See, what I can say is 10x engineers, I wouldn't put a label to it. I would say that it has born out of anecdotes and it has born out of some cliches. So without putting label to it, I say there are very good engineers, great engineers, and there are your normal engineers, next door boy or girl engineers. So programmers comes in all kind of capabilities, and I would want to have very good, brilliant engineers in my team, as well as I want to have normal engineers in my team. My belief is that you need a 10x team. You don't need a 10x engineer. Again, I don't want to put a label to it. You just need good engineers in your team.
Okay, so we've got two founders who are also of the view that you need good engineers. A 10x engineer is perhaps something out of the movies, not something that they've come out, but they've seen in real life. So let me just take our viewers through some of what is believed to be a 10x engineer. You know, where they say things like they hate meetings, think it's a waste of time. Their office timings are highly irregular. Most of them are late night coders. The laptop screen background color is typically black. Their keyboard keys such as I, X are all very worn out. They know every line of the code that has gone into production. They know precisely what the bugs are and can fix it. Most of them are full stack engineers, don't care if coding is in the front end, back end, API, data, serverless, all of that. They rarely look at help documentation of classes or methods. Atul, what I've described, you anyway said perhaps is out of Hollywood, but is it also a nightmare for founders? You know, someone who's trying to have a vision, wants people to follow his vision, is also perhaps having a problem in letting go and delegation.
Of course, for me, it's look like more like a Hollywood movie, right? Where you're having a hacker who's basically hacking everything, sitting in front of computer, and you're making it more like a filmy kind of thing, right? Honestly speaking, of course, as I said, the engineering, of course, you can put your 100% potential for a given product, but you cannot keep like 100% time, 100 times the same thing, right? Because there are certain topics. So let's say I am a research engineer, I'm good in, let's say, facial recognition and writing the code for facial recognition like thing, right? But when you work in a company or any startup, there things come every time you get something new, right? And of course, applying the same potential, same let's say the skill with the same, let's say, the energy level is a bit difficult task. I believe that, right? And at the same time, of course, I said that this technology is putting new pressure in terms of learning and relearning the things. And of course, you have to also not only learn, but also you have to make perfect of yourself, because a new competition is evolving every day. So of course, you need a good potential engineer. I always say the learning is the most important part for anything as an engineering thing, because you have to learn. That's all, because everything, the technology is getting changed. But as you say, I mean, like, I don't believe on that part of thing that you have to sit in front of computer 24/7 and you are good, like, I mean, you are running multiple terminals on your computer and just multiple things are going over there. I mean, it's, of course, it's a more like a filmy thing to say, but I don't know what the guy who basically met the street, of course, what he wanted to say on that part. But I believe it's more like you have an engineer who's basically good in learning the skills, who's good in the coding part. Of course, he is good in the concept framing and all. That's what you want in a team. And of course, Abhishek said that you need a 10x team, not a 10x engineer, because I mean, it's a practical part. You cannot be perfect in everything. I mean, you have an Indian cricket team, so one is a wicket keeper, there's a bowler, there's a batsman, right? So when in a coding part, you have the same thing. There is a front-end engineer, there's a back-end engineer. So back-end engineer may be good in the Python and maybe some other Java-related technology. The front-end may be good in JavaScript and some other things. So that is a very different, because each of these topics are a bit vast, right? You cannot have the expertise. At the same time, you also have a research engineer who's good in AI techniques, right? So when you talk about the 10x engineers, you want to basically put all these skills in a single basically person, and which I believe, and of course I haven't seen that yet, that kind of potential in a single person. I mean, if he will have that for a single product. And of course, once you start basically scaling something, you need a team, of course, a 10x team, not a 10x engineer. So I believe on that part, I agree with Abhishek for that thing. Yeah.
Your point. I get your point. I get your point. You know, both founders that we've got on Startup Central today, with the help of TiE Delhi NCR, of the view that, you know, yes, of course, engineers are very, very essential, quintessential, but the way they're made out to me may just be something out of a movie. That's the word that's coming in. There are fantastic engineers out there. But Abhishek, isn't that also a problem where founders like you may be faltering? And be candid over here. It's a feeling that you see in the blue chip companies around the world. You see them in multi-billion-dollar corporations who've been around for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. And today those companies are floundering because they don't have the support of the tech team. The engineers are frustrated. They're jumping ship. So aren't all of you founders perhaps, and I'm playing devil's advocate here, not learning the lessons of those multi-billion-dollar companies. I'm talking about triple-digit billion-dollar companies who have learned the hard way that you have to keep your engineers happy. Without them, you'll be irrelevant, you won't innovate.
You have to keep your engineers happy, but also you have to build out your process so that you are not dependent on one engineer. See, a lot of these cliches are coming from the fact that, or it's an ode to a very early stage startup where there are just 1 to 2 people in your team. So those people are hustling, they're working. The meeting is essentially just calling out a person across the cabin and just having a chat with him. And if you look at a large corporation and a larger team, then you will realize these days the teams are very, very efficient anyway. They meet for 10 to 15 minutes of morning stand-up and they discuss the team. The only larger meeting is required when an engineer or the team product manager wants to understand some problem that he's stuck with and wants to talk to the stakeholders. So and it's true more for larger corporates that you have to build out your processes so that you're not dependent on a single person. And very big companies that I know of are not dependent on single engineers or single person for that matter. It could be from a marketing department, and that's the job of a leader to find out where my single point of failures are and not depend on that person or that department.
Okay, Atul, if I can come back to you now, I'm going to come to you, both of you now for my final round. A lot that is being discussed today, especially on Twitter when this entire 10x engineer debate is going viral, has to do with the work culture. And I've got to say this, as an outsider, and I've never worked at a startup. For me, it looks like something which is cool, is visionary, it's young, it's not about processes, it's about disrupting even the workforce. But hey, you guys, from whatever's going on Twitter, it sounds like the kind of corporations I've ever worked in and, my friends have worked in. And it's all about, again, those boring meetings and all of those boring processes when you get upset that HR makes you do all of this. Or have I got that wrong, Atul? And Abhishek, I'm going to ask you the same question.
So of course I'll go first. So in that part, of course, after just talking about the tweet part, is of course now it's becoming more like a meme kind of thing, rather than a serious topic. Second part, of course, the work culture is very important because, of course, I always believe that in any kind of startup, the flat structure works very well for us because there's a direct communication. You are not wasting time in these kind of which corporates in general do. I believe that. But at the same time, giving the importance of because every person, I believe, in every team you have a person who is having certain skills, and you have to utilize that skill in a right manner. You have to utilize that skill in a 10x manner rather than someone have the 10x kind of a skill, like 10 skills, right? So that is very important thing to have. I have so far have found that everyone has certain kind of a skill, and of course I don't have to be honest, in StackU we hire freshers, right? And we are doing well. We are working with some of the top police agencies in the country, right? And we are working well in that area. So it's just happening with the young guys, right? So it's not like you have to have 10x kind of person, but yes, if someone is having a skill which is good for your company, you should utilize it in that 10x way. So and and of course that's the I would say that's the basically work for any. That is the main leadership quality I believe you have. If you're making that workable, then I think that should be the targeted rather than this 10x gimmick, I believe.
Abhishek, let me come to you. I thought only we all in the non-startup universe had to worry about those conference calls, those meetings, complaints about why is it that our HR department is not letting us be more productive, why they're sucking all of this energy out of us. But you guys seem to have the same belief.
See, there would be unnecessary meetings in every place, but startups in general are more driven. And this is a So any startup that grows on to become a large company also will have these set of problems, because you add more and more people, you have to add more processes, and those processes sometimes take up time from your real work of coding and programming and creating product and attending to customers. But that said, there's a lot of companies that I know of, large companies, who operate as a startup, and individual teams are given freedom to operate and innovate on whatever product that they are working on. So again, it's as Atul said, the culture is more important, and if you create the right culture, people will not even mind some extra meeting that they have to go to, or if HR has to say something, they would definitely not mind. In fact, what you need to show anybody in your organization, whether it's an engineer or marketer, a 10x growth. Once he sees that 10x growth path, I'm pretty sure he's going to stick with you, she is going to stick with you for the next 10 years. So, I mean, this debate is all about just creating the right culture and hiring the right people. And hiring the right people is all about attitude. It's not about what skill set that he comes with, what tools that he uses, how the screen color looks like. It's all about what is the right attitude. Is he a great person? Does he have the right attitude to learn and grow? Does he have the right attitude towards his team members? Does he have the right attitude towards your customers? And these are some things that, in my opinion, a leader and a manager should look at.
Okay. Both of you, Abhishek and Atul, I'd like to thank both of you for taking the time out, for joining us here on Startup Central, on your views on a topic that's gone viral, 10x engineers. We have two founders who believe that, hey, they don't even exist. It's something you see out of the movies. But founders, stay on. I've got you a special discussion. My colleague Rahul Dhyama actually went to a couple of engineers that he got together for this chopper to find out what they think. Do they think that they are not utilized the way they should be? Are they happy with the work culture? What can founders do to make them more productive and efficient?
Yes, Nayantara, the entire thread is, so to say, set off a conversation rolling, and I decided to come by here at the KTech Hub to talk to entrepreneurs, coders, engineers themselves to understand what their take really on the entire debate is. Thank you all so much for taking out the time and joining us. It's interesting. We have Sumit, co-founder of Common Floor, which went on to go and sell it to Quicker. Sumit, thank you so much for joining us. Nice to meet you. You were discussing how you haven't coded for the last 5 years, but you're a coder at heart. What's your view on this entire 10x engineer, the productivity levels really being high, but they're a different breed who sort of stick by themselves and focus on work?
Yeah, I think 10x as a term in startups we use for generally a profile, a smart engineer or designer or anything for that matter is generally 10x more productive than average engineer. So we kind of bias for hiring better engineers than average engineers. But then talking about typecasting them is really unfair, because you find mostly they're misfits. But that is what the job of an entrepreneur, to create an organization which is coherent and people can work towards delivering a common goal.
Yeah, and you have all sets of people working under, of course, the misfits also sort of make the setup interesting. What's your view? What according to you, how would you define a 10x engineer? Everyone has their own version, but I think he put it rightly. It's more of a misfit trying to fit in and sort of be more productive.
Yeah, so I agree with Shekhar. So on that side. So because I myself was a kind of 8x, you can say. So because I used to work for a services company, so where I never used to attend any kind of discussions, seminars, whatever, meetings and all that. So but the code used to run back of my mind. So today I've co-founded a company, so where I have people who are most likely kind of a 10x kind of a people. So now I've grown kind of being that in that role. I've grown how to handle those kind of people who's working along with me, especially in a product kind of a setup. So you need to have such kind of people who helps you quickly scale through your dreams.
All right, you'd say it's great to have them, but how do you find out? How do you go out there and hire a 10x engineer? Is it easier really? And I'm told, Shekhar also mentions, they're not the easiest ones to switch jobs as well.
Yeah. So my perspective is, as a company, we need a mix of 10x, 2x, 4x, and all kind of x.
Yeah.
Because I believe if you have only 10x kind of engineers, there's different kind of roles we play. Some tasks are boring but very important. Some are very important but may not be technically challenging. So I think we need a mix of all kind of people in a company to be very successful. And to answer your question on how to find them, I think it's a very tough job to find them just by going through portals or job profiles. I think it's a best idea to start and see who in your team will grow to a 10x engineer. Internally seeing inside your team is a much better idea than just finding them outside. That's my perspective.
All right, you can always sort of grow. I saw you smile all throughout, when there was sort of, what is your take? Do you have an anti-stand really on the entire issue?
No, I don't think it's really anti. I quite agree with what Ram said, that, a company needs all sorts to make it successful. But since the topic is really 10x, finding them is really hard from the market. It's really, really hard, because here are some people who, just by sheer persona, they are quiet people. They would not really tom-tom about them all over. You will not find them shouting out loud in the social media. So, but companies like ours, Headway.ai, have ability to find them, okay? Because we just go and look at personas that are there in the social media, and we have some algorithms that actually can surface up such people for companies. To your point about only 10x are good, or maybe a little bit like that. So it's really not. That's really not the point. I mean,
it's an interesting blend of.
It is a blend, and I think 10x people are very deep, but they may not be very versatile.
Interesting point you're making. Well, the productivity is great. You have to have an interesting blend of everyone sort of coming together, because okay, the productivity is great, but if you're not a team player, we of course don't like those boring meetings, so to say. You can't be a great mentor. So it's good to have that bracket of talent, but to also ensure that you widen it off across an early stage startup.
I think it's a lot to do with the context. See, just from experience. So I started social commerce in 2010. Today I run a company called Witphone. Social commerce in 2010, Cordova in probably 2011, 2012. WebRTC in 2015, 2016. So there you need not 10x, you need 50x engineers. Let me be honest about that. You need one developer who can crack it. We've had multiple. But as the company grows, I think they need to understand their role of not just being individual contributors, but be able to, and they lack, their issues are not with code, their issues are with soft skills, talking to people and reporting. So that I think is a 20% skill that they need to gain to be able to maximize a lot more. And that's the kind of vision that I set for them, and that's how I think it goes.
I agree and disagree to quite a few points, right? We need to understand where at what stage of the organization you are in, right? When you're creating, conceptualizing, you need 10x, 15x kind of a people. And the best way to actually motivate them to carry on forward is to actually empower them to lead more teams, because they have the whole set of mind which they also need to grow in the value chain of the organization. They understand what is it that needs to be delivered for an organization or for a startup, because that is again time bound, delivery bound. So I guess that 10x engineers have to be there, especially on the vertical lines when you are trying to build a product which is not yet out there. The most valuable, most viable product, as we call it, has to be there with 10x, because as an engineer, frankly, I don't understand the difference between peach as a fruit and peach as a color. For me, peach is a fruit, right? Very simple. So that's an engineering. Yeah, peach, right? That's a fruit, right? We cannot understand colors, right? You tell us how to solve a problem, we can do that. Coding standards, yes, by default have to be there, because when somebody else is going to read a code, they need to understand what is being written, but that's not on top of the line at that moment in time.
I believe that on a very high level, I do agree with what Shekhar has said, no doubt about that. But at the same time, I believe one thing that attracts these 10x is actually if they believe in the idea or not. I think that's a very, very important aspect in actually getting them around and getting them to stick to a particular company. It's very important. They should be actually associated to the company, not just the idea. They should be associated to the management. They should have a very close association with their colleagues. Shekhar has rightly pointed out that they're not very social people, but they need a very good environment to actually thrive. If they don't have that environment, it's very difficult for
to sort of retain them as well.
Exactly, to sort of retain them as well, to have their constant interest. I actually have worked with a lot of engineers. I am an engineer myself, and I mean, I have found a lot of people who actually work like that, who would just wake up at 12 and probably deliver it at 7 a.m. in the morning if that's what it is required. Excellent. And if that is what is required, then you have to have that trust in the organization and the belief in the idea.
All right.
To be sold on the
Yeah, sort of be driven by the vision of the work, the company, and interesting set of viewpoints from coders, entrepreneurs here. That it's integral to have them at the right time, especially while you're starting up. It's a small team, but as you grow up, give them their space, let them contribute as much as they want to. But you have an interesting mix of talent. But yes, Shekhar Kirani of Axel Partners has actually set off a big debate, which will go on for quite some time now.
Right. Thanks a lot, Rahul, for that. That's a chopal that Rahul had at a startup hub with engineers. That's what engineers want. I'm going to go back to the two founders I have with me, courtesy TIE Delhi NCR. Atul, I'll come to you first. You've heard uncut, candid conversation primarily from engineers. Are founders in sync with what they want, what they think will allow them to flourish?
So of course, I mean, I was hearing most of them were more like towards that a team building is more important. I mean, work culture is important. Of course, there were certain people who were having the, let's say, this, of course, that this belief of 5x, 10x kind of thing. But I really believe that I would need a team person who is good in basically in one skill. And as a leader, I need that 10 diverse skilled person. I have to make it 10x as a leader, not those people, because this will make extra pressure on them if I start asking the same, because in the end we are human, right? I mean, of course, just remove all these gimmicks and all. So in the end we are human, right? We cannot do a lot of things in a single part. Maybe I'll do for one project, but not always, right? So to be very practical, that is more like utilizing 10 different people who are having different X, let's say set of skill, X skill, not the set of skill, but and then you are making it, I mean, of course, you are basically, as a leader, you are making it useful for the company's goal or the startup's goal. So I have that kind of, and because that is more like I've used, and maybe different people have different kind of belief because they have used that particular kind of formula for their success. For me, I believe in that kind of, maybe the formula,
I got your point. Okay, I got your point. So Abhishek, I'm going to come to you. I'm going to give you the final comment because on his way to our office, to the ET Now office, Abhishek tweeted, don't even think of going out. It's raining cats, dogs, mice and a lot of other animals. So gratitude for battling that traffic to be a part of Startup Central. Having said that, back to business. You heard what the engineers want. Are you in sync? Are you coding well together? Any interesting tidbits there that you think you would want to perhaps introduce at your company?
Yeah, I would say, especially on this topic, always hire people for attitude. Engineers want a full-formed team. Obviously, definitely hire what you think is a 10x engineer. Again, I'm not putting a label to it. I would actually, I would hire a good programmer. Whether he or she is an engineer or not doesn't actually matter. And that's what most of the founders and most of managers and leaders should be doing. Hire good programmers, make sure that your team in itself is sufficient to carry on that project. In itself, set up processes and do only meetings that are very necessary and that is moving towards a goal. Create a culture that everybody loves and create a culture that puts everybody to create that common product or a common service or goal. And that should be the only thing every startup founder on earth should be doing. Create a team that is always geared towards the common goal of the founders and what the vision is.
Okay. With that, I'd like to thank both Abhishek, Atul, as well as TIE Delhi NCR for helping us facilitate this conversation. Food for thought, things to think about, how can startups, entrepreneurs, founders, all of them work together, build a team which allows the programmers, the engineers, whatever you want to call them, Abhishek, to flourish, to help you innovate, and to help build the vision of the founders. What's the best work environment for them? It's a topic that went viral. I'd like to thank both of you again for that. We're going to take a short commercial break, but stay tuned. Tell us what you thought of the first segment of the show. Write in to us. Our email address is startupcentral@etnow.tv. I'm also on Twitter. My Twitter handle is @Nayantara Rai. Tell us what you thought of it. Tell us whether you agree with the two founders that we had on the show and what they think they should be doing with engineers. Tell us what you thought the engineers had to say, if they were being reasonable, unreasonable. We'll stay tuned for your feedback. Short commercial break. On the other side, we'll get you an interview with TVS Capital. They've raised more funds. What do they plan to do with it? Stay tuned. Abhishek, hi, Nayantara.
Hi, Nayantara.
Hi, thanks a lot for battling the
Can you hear me?
traffic. I live in Gurgaon, so I'm already paranoid. Yeah, I can hear you. I said, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. So
Actually, listen, I
I'm
know you
also
said
on
no
the-
to my executive
Okay, sorry.
producer. Please do it, yeah, because I know you know him personally, but it's for a show. And I told Deep I'll get very good entrepreneurs to do it. So please do. Just say hi, Deep, I'm whatever. I know you can say I know you very well, but since you're having a masterclass, I think what you need to share is, you can put it like that.
Okay. What is the topic?
So I'm doing a Startup Central masterclass with him. Basically, we're going to the unicorns and we're collecting questions from the viewers, from the startups and stuff. And these guys will be saying, this is what I think, this is from my experience, this is how I did it. Just a masterclass, like a toolkit. So, it can be literally whatever insights you think would be interesting from your perspective to hear from Deep. And you can say that, hi, I'm so-and-so. By the way, I know you really well, and I can always reach out to you. But I thought this is what is interesting and what you should be sharing. Or if you don't want to say you don't know him personally,
so
that's
is
up
it-
to you.
No, it's is it a question for Deep on the program, or is it
Deep, yeah, it's a
something
question.
that I should be sharing with him?
A question, you could
Okay,
even
it's a
share
question
feedback if you
on,
want. A question that he will answer on the
and
show. Or if
any
you think you want to
particular
give
topic?
feedback for Make My Trip, that's... No, it's
No,
the
that's
whole
fine.
universe.
I'll ask a question, but it's a whole universe. Okay. Good. I'll ask a question then.
Thank you. Gaurav, will you help? Yeah, thanks.
Thanks. All right.
Welcome back. You're watching Startup Central. I'm Nayantara Rai. Before we go any further, tell us what you think of the show. Write in to us. Our email address is startupcentral@etnow.tv. You can write in directly to me as well. I'm on Twitter. Tell us what you want to see on the show, what you never want to see on the show. Pitch to us. Who knows? Maybe you could feature on Startup Central. Having said that, it's now time for Startup Toolkit. We invite investors, founders to be here and share their toolkit. Today we're putting the spotlight on TVS Capital, and here's why. It has closed an 1100 crore rupee third private equity fund. That's right, 1100 crore rupees, and the TVS Shriram Growth Fund 3 has that target corpus with a green shoe option of 500 crores. Gopal Srinivasan, the Chairman and Managing Director of TVS Capital Funds, joining in from Chennai. Thank you so much for joining us here on Startup Central. This is Nayantara Rai. Congratulations on the fundraise. I've always said sometimes when I look at what's happening in the startup universe, it feels like all of you are living in a parallel universe from the old economy, the blue chips, the old economy, like the enthusiasm that you see, the fundraising that you see, and the deployment also that you see. Having said that, so with this third fund, what's the stated objective? Any sectors you're looking at particularly?
So Nayantara, lovely to be on the show. Thank you for having me. Yes, we're delighted that we've raised the second close of our third fund, which is about 1200 crores roughly of all rupee capital commitments, something that we're exceptionally happy about. You know, the private equity world and the startup world converge all the time. They're actually not two separate universes. They're simply two streams that merge into an ocean. The way I understand it is where we come into play is when people are raising Series B, typically Series C, and they want a lot of support in terms of becoming what I call as venture growth companies. Venture becoming venture growth. So typically when we look at them, we look for four things in the future. First is the energy of a startup, which is amazing. Second is we want to see there's a flight plan to EBITDA positive. Third is a business model that is capital efficient, which is the third E in our book. And of course, the fourth E is that we really want to make sure that we have a set of entrepreneurs who we can fall in love with in terms of being great founders. So venture growth is a great segment. And if you look at a classic example, it was Nykaa. We were so fortunate to come into contact with Falguni Nair when she was preparing her plan, her business plan, and we participated in a Series B, and the company has grown spectacularly thanks to her. So experienced founders is whom we target, people with 15 years of experience, successful in the past, typically in similar businesses, but not necessarily so. So the experienced founders with energy of growth, flight plan to EBITDA in a capital efficient business, and TVS Capital in the financial services space especially, and in the area of business services, we are there to support such entrepreneurs to grow.
Okay, so those are the do's, but it's always good to know the don'ts as well. You like experienced founders, you want clear-cut business plans, you want the glide path to EBITDA. Pardon me for saying that, you sound like almost every other fund that is out there. Maybe what differentiates you is what you would never touch with a barge pole, if I could put it as crudely. What is it that TVS Capital would never go near?
Other than governance issues where we sense some kind of concern about governance, because the only time in our two funds where we've had challenges in terms of making a decent profit or a capital is where there have been governance issues in the company. So in the areas we like, which are capital efficient business models, what we want is companies that can benefit from a lot of injection of capability. See, it's one thing to come to 100, 150 crores of revenue, it's another thing to go to 500, 600 crores of revenue. That chasm has to be crossed. In crossing the chasm, you need capability, you need a level of kind of discipline, as well as capital. This capability capital is where a growth private equity fund becomes useful. So I would like to still stay on what we bring and what we look for. What we don't do is things that don't meet that model and which we're concerned about either the entrepreneur or governance. Otherwise, we're more than happy to plunge in, as we've recently done with a fantastic 42-year-old experienced entrepreneur in the area of logistics services, providing pallets on rent, 3 million of them actually, for goods to move from A to B to C to D, and creating a nationwide network where pallets can be taken and pallets can be returned in this mega growth of logistics that is taking place in the country.
So, you mentioned logistics, you mentioned financial services. I want to talk to you about financial services. It's a sector which is plagued with governance issues. It's a sector which is going through a lot of problems in the old economy. In the new economy, there's, of course, a lot of enthusiasm. Like I said, you're seeing some great new companies out there. Fintech is taking off. There's all this news that, you'll even have the likes of Jio and Piramal, for instance, that will be looking at financial technology. So having said that, what are the kind of companies you'll be looking at in financial services? It's a whole array. The penetration is anyway so small.
So the thing that we've really liked is in the area of financial inclusion. We've invested in a small finance bank, not once, but twice, the same small finance bank. We actually think a lot of the fintech activity need not necessarily be in smaller companies with technology, but platforms like a small finance bank, for example, with very strong liability side, can become the future platform for financial technology solutions to really reach out into the rural areas. Similarly, if you take an area like farm producer organizations, FPOs, there are thousands of FPOs transforming the agricultural landscape, yet there is no outreach to them with technology. They are as keen to be accessed through technology as anybody else. So we look in financial areas, in fact, as you said, among the governance issues in that particular pond of financial services, there are also lotuses. So we look for those lotuses, and in these troubling times, availability of capital is actually a bit of a challenge. So we have better chance of getting access to some of these wonderful entrepreneurs and founders during these times. But for us, financial inclusion, whether it's in affordable housing finance, whether it is in farm producer organization finance, whether it's in reaching rural microfinance groups, that has been a focus for us. We like that area a lot, and we intend to keep going deeper and deeper into this area of financial inclusion. That's where there is huge amount of headroom for growth, and actually a very huge short supply of both companies as well as money to those individuals who want money.
So I've got to ask you this question. You've told us what you like. You've told us what you would never touch. You have a third fund now of nearly 1,200 crore rupees. There's a green shoe option. So everyone who's watching you at the moment and they want to pitch to TVS Capital, what's the best way of doing so?
Just reach out to us anytime. I think we're all over the place in terms of Twitter. We're all over the place in terms of our easy way to get access to us. People meet me all the time. I get to meet lots of people. My team gets to meet a lot of people. But if these 4 E's of capital efficiency, EBITDA, experienced entrepreneurs, and energy for growth is available in any of these spaces, including sometimes in niche consumer areas, we are delighted to help, especially in Series B, Series C, as you want to go from venture to venture growth in your flight plan for the universe.
Gopal Srinivasan, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much. Congratulations on that fundraise. We look forward to having you as a regular feature here on Startup Central. Many thanks.
Thank you, Nayantara. Thank you for having me.
And with that, we're going to take a short commercial break. Tell us what you made of that TVS Capital Q&A that we had. We'll be back after this short commercial break. On the other side, we'll put the spotlight on Myntra. Back, you're watching Startup Central. I'm Nayantara Rai. Well, today is the first day of those big deals that you get at Flipkart as well as Amazon Prime. So we thought, what's happening at Myntra? It's now, of course, owned by Walmart. It's got big pockets. What's on offer? What's it looking like for Myntra going forward? What are the plans it's stitching for itself? Here's a conversation with the top boss of Myntra with my colleague Rahul Dema.
Amar, thank you so much for taking out the time and joining us on ET Now. A lot of convincing to really get you to talk to us. Tell us, close to a year as far as the Walmart really coming on board, how will the synergies really pan out in the years to come from a Flipkart perspective also?
Sure. So Myntra is the fashion leader when it comes to online fashion portals. And Myntra always had its investments in the areas which made Myntra stand out in the world of fashion. Those investments will continue to happen, and those investments in technology. What happened after Walmart came in was these investments actually got much more support. These investments got accelerated for the one single fact that these were all pointed at the consumer experience. Walmart has actually exposed it to a lot of the resources on their end, a lot of markets also. And Flipkart being in the space for so long, and Flipkart is also giving us that one big synergy element when it comes to dealing with the brands, when it also comes to understanding the tier 2, tier 3 customers, where Flipkart is already strong in those markets. So a lot of synergies coming our way, and we believe sincerely that a lot of these synergies will help us become even more stronger player in the world of fashion and help us actually cement our position there.
And it's of course a work in progress, and you will
Yes.
see how it pans out. But Amar, would you reiterate that Myntra will continue to be an independent entity? Flipkart has also been pushing really its fashion vertical very, very strongly. So in the scheme of things, Myntra will continue to do what it's been really doing?
Absolutely. The audience that Myntra caters to and the audience Flipkart caters to, we've been very clear, and it's been very clear in the market also, that these are two segments of users. And this is an understanding not only between Flipkart and Myntra, and it's also with Flipkart, Myntra and Walmart coming into the play. So it's very clear all the way from Walmart to Flipkart to Myntra that we stand for a very specific value segment of users, and we will continue to cater to these segment of users with continued investments and making this play much more differentiated.
Got it. I'll get out the last one before we go into business plans. Jabong, Myntra, a lot of churn. Finally, the teams are working together. What does the future really look like? Is everything now sorted as far as integration backend, and how will this really move ahead in the months to come?
In fact, in the last 6 months, both the teams have been very excited to come together on a lot of problem statements we have in the space of fashion. One of the reasons why we also thought of unifying the people between the two companies into one entity is because we have a lot of things to do in the world of fashion beyond the boundary lines of Myntra and Jabong. That is the reason why we brought them together. And now the people are super excited to work on a fashion problem. It's not necessarily a Myntra problem or a Jabong problem, and some of these problems can actually go beyond Myntra, Jabong, and help a lot of brands also. In fact, a lot of brands are already working with us to take our technology to put to use in their own areas, be it offline, be it in international markets, which is the reason why this particular unification of people is helping us a lot and giving us the boost, much needed boost for us. In terms of Jabong, it will continue to stay as an independent entity, and this unified workforce will power both Myntra and Jabong and all the fashion needs beyond this space.
There you go. That's what Myntra is up to with the help of the deep-pocketed Walmart. With that, it's a wrap. Many thanks for watching. Write into us. Our email address is startupcentral@etnow.tv. I'm also on Twitter. You can reach out to me directly. Tell me what you want to see on the show, never want to see you on the show. Pitch to us. Who knows? Maybe you'll be a part of Startup Central. From the entire team that put the show together, many thanks for watching.